That night we were sent down to a home like a prison. It was a house like, but not for families. There was a foxy fella working there with a big beard on him. He'd scare the hell out of you if you saw him in a dark room. But he wasn't the worst of them, in fairness, he was alright. He asked us if we were fed, and we were, but Killian goes no we weren't, so he gave us our dinner again. The poppies were massive, your man made them and all himself. I never seen a fella cook food before, not proper stuff like. His name was Bill. He didn't talk much, only wrote down when we did anything, but he spoke soft like, and didn't shout or nothing. And when Killian asked him for a fag, he gave him one and all. Everyone had their own separate room in the place, so I wasn't allowed to stay with my brother. His room was across the hall. There was a phone call down below after we got to our rooms, and it was our mother. Killian got there first and says, "Hello," and she's talking to him, and he goes, "No, yes, alright, yes, alright." Like that, he was talking and nodding, and then he goes, "Alright," and hands me the phone. "Did you say anything about the museum?" she goes to me when I said hello. No, I told her. They stopped asking me stuff when I told them Michael Collins was my grandfather, because they were scared of me, I'd say. She goes, "You're stupid shit for talking about that." And I goes, "The cops said that too." I said that so she'd shut up, because I thought she wouldn't like to be agreeing with no shade. But she didn't shut up. She goes, "Don't mention the museum, and don't tell him it was her what done it, because she didn't even do it, and she never even seen no dagger. If they ask where you got the dagger," she goes to me, "tell them you found it by the river," or she gives me a rake of stuff to remember, and I goes, yeah, alright, okay, alright. Well, like, how am I supposed to know all that, really? I'm not thick, like. I knew what not to talk about to the cops even then. Well, mostly. And I didn't hear anything more she was on about, but I stayed on until she said, "Put Killian back on," and I did, and he was going, "Yeah, alright, yeah, and I went back up to my room. The foxy fellow was at the end of the hall, not listening like I don't think, but he started writing down when I went back upstairs. See, until I said about Michael Collins, they didn't ask if we stole the dagger from the museum. They were only questioning me about the fella we bait up. They were going, "Alright, where'd you get the dagger?" But they were waiting for me to say where first. When I said Michael Collins, your man with me got me to stop, and that was it. Next day, I was only taken back to the bridewell, not Killian. There was a different guard there too, and a woman, and my solicitor, and a Bangarda too who looked like Pretty Woman in the movie. She was alright like. She did most of the questions at the start, the Bangarda. She asked me a load of the same stuff as the day before, about the bait we gave your man mostly. But then she goes, "Where'd you meet your man before?" And I said I didn't never meet him, and she goes, "You did, and your brother had a knife, where'd he get it?" I said he found it like by the river, and she goes, "Was it a good knife?" And I lashed into telling her all about the knife and how I cut the fish. And she goes, "Where'd you leave the knife after?" And I remembered I was tricked into telling them, so I said nothing more about that. And she goes, "Were you ever up the park?" And I says, "Yeah." And she goes, "Did you get the knife in the museum up there?" And it all goes on and on like that for ages, and they were saying me and Killian robbed the knife off the museum, and I told them no we didn't. And the other Garda, who was a man, started asking questions then, and making me all confused, and I think I was saying we got the knife under my mum's bed after a while, but I didn't know what I was saying like. It was just because they were saying we done it, the robbery in the museum, but I knew we didn't like, and I kept forgetting what I was supposed to say or not. And then after a while they brought me back to the house with Foxy Bill, and he gave me more dinner and even said I could have a fag, and he wrote down what I ate, and I asked him if he wrote down that he gave me a fag, and he goes no. And I goes, "What if I squelched on him about it?" And he goes, "Nobody believed me, and even if they did, nobody'd care." And I knew that it was true, and Bill knew it too. He didn't mean it bad like. We kind of had a smile about it, both of us, and I said, "They're all full of shit." And Bill laughed soft and said, "Ain't that the truth?" There's a difference, see. Some people be full of crap, and they pretend like their shit smells of lynx. Other people just don't give a damn, because they know everyone else is full of it, and I knew Bill was like that. We both knew it like. One time, me and Killian used to be going to this place out the country, years before that like, most weekends when we was young. I'd say I was around 4 at the most, or 6 like. A car would come and pick us up, I think it was a social worker, and she'd take us to this house like, out the country for the weekend, and it was an old biddy's house, and her husband, Madge was her name, and I can't remember his name, but he never said much to us anyway, except carry them bags over to there and get 2 buckets of coal and go on the way out now and play with the buses. And Madge would be all smiles to the social worker and nodding away at the instructions about what type of food we'd like and how to wash our clothes so they'd be fresh when we go home, because our mother never washes anything. The social worker was telling Madge all this override us. And Madge was smiling and nodding and being all nice. And as soon as the social worker begun, Madge's smile begun, and she'd go, "Fuck off out now, come back at 6 for your dinner." She'd go all red and on, she's saying it like she didn't say fuck often enough. Well, she'd tell it to us, alright. Me and Killian be happy out to be free out the country, and the fields were massive. And we got a jockey off a cow one time, and a chase off a farmer plenty of times. And Killian joined the soccer team out there, because we were around for most of the matches at the weekends, and he was brilliant at it. And if anyone tackled him bad like, he'd take him out no bother next time. And mostly he'd get sent off, because the ref would have it in for him, because they'd say, "I know who ye are and ye can't come out here with that gurrier attitude." And I'd tell him, "Fuck off." From we'd both be sent off, even though I wasn't even playing, because I was too young anyway. And Madge, who wouldn't even be there, would tell the social worker that Killian got fired off the team again. But Killian was their best player, like, so next time, or the time after that, he'd be left back on, but he'd be on his last warning, and I'd be waiting to join the team too when I'd be older, because I was a better soccer player even than Killian me. But when I got old enough, we weren't calling the Madges anymore. But that time, when we was going there, like, if we were back at 6 o'clock, Madge would cook us sausages for our dinner. We both liked sausages, and Madge did great ones always. We both liked poppies too, like, but we'd only get those on a Sunday with our sausages before we went home. Anyway, after dinner she might say we could watch telly till 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock if there was something on, and then we'd have to go to bed. If we'd done all that, she'd write it down. If one of us didn't do something, she'd write that down. If Killian asked for a biscuit, she'd say no and write that down. Or sometimes she'd say yes, like, and give us a rich tea or 2 Mariettas between us, and she'd write down that she gave us a treat. She'd have a packet of chocolate biscuits too, like, when we'd be watching a movie, but they'd only be for her and not for her husband, like. She wouldn't be bothered writing that. Foxy Bill was the opposite to Madge. He pretended to be shitty, but he was alright. He still wrote everything down, like, 'cause that's his job. Madge was told wash her clothes before we went back, but she only brushed them with a wet sponge all the time before the social worker would come and we'd be standing out the front door. One time on the way home, like, Killian told the social worker that our clothes weren't washed, and she looked at them when Killian showed her the dirt, and she goes, "You probably dirtied it since, so it don't matter anyway." And when we got home, the social worker goes to her mother, "I think they might be getting fed up going to Madge." And my mother goes, "They don't know what's good for them." We weren't fed up mostly, like, just she wouldn't be the nicest most days, and there wasn't a load to do out there all the time, but it was good too though to be there sometimes. Just, well, I didn't care myself, like, if we never went out there, but I knew Killian did want to be, so he goes, "No, we're not fed up at all." He said that like he meant it. And my mum goes, "Well, ask if you can still go so." And the social worker stood there waiting for Killian to ask, and he did. And my mother goes, "Say please." And Killian said please, and the social worker goes to my mother, "Yes, of course they can still go if you consent to it." And my mother hit Killian on the back of the head and told him piss off now and behave. Then the social worker left. Killian wasn't anywhere around that night when I got back to Bill. I was after asking him where was Killian, and Bill said he'll be back tomorrow. That's when I had my dinner after that and smoked a fag too with Bill. And then I walked around into the front room where there was a telly that I could have watched if I wanted to and all, but it was broke. After a while, 2 other shades brought another fella into the house, and your man who was cuffed to one of them started screaming and kicking everything, and kicked the shade and spat at Bill, and goes to me when I looked down the hall, "What are you looking at, you fucking prick?" I said nothing to him, 'cause he was mad out. The other guard told me go on away up to your room, and I just goes up like that. And I heard that fella screaming and shouting all night after they locked him up. His room was locked, but me and Killian didn't have locks on our doors, because we agreed not to run away, and we didn't neither. Well, Killian wasn't there that night, but on the night he was, he didn't. Then another fella in another room, who I never seen, starts shouting at the other fella to shut up, and the 2 of them had a big fight for hours, and they couldn't even see each other. I'd say the other fella's room was locked too. The 2 guards were gone away by then, and the 2 fellas kept on and on. Bill never said nothing to him, but I was betting he was down in the kitchen writing down that they were fighting, and he might have been writing down what they were saying to each other and all even. But it was all total shit. Even I knew that, and Bill even knew it too. It wasn't my first time being locked up, but it was my first time being locked up 2 nights. And I was never in this house before, and I wasn't the worst of them. Bill was alright at least. I met him a few times in there later on, like Bill. And I met him in the pub one time years after. I thought he knew me, and I was speaking with him, and he was talking away, and he was still alright. But when I thought about it after, I knew he didn't remember me at all, and didn't give a shit who I was anyway. And you know what? He was dead right too. Usually my mother would get me out of wherever the cops would have me locked up, or at least be around off and on, giving out to him. On the phone even, she'd be giving out to him, and she'd call me loads of times. This time she kept away and didn't call no more. She killed me later on, next time I saw her, for grassing on her. I told her I didn't, and I didn't grass on her neither, as far as I know. But she said only for Killian admitting he done it, she'd have been locked up herself, and there'd be nothing done on us anyway, 'cause we was minors, of course, and I should have known it too, she says. She told me that on the phone that day, she goes, and she called me all names, and Killian was her favourite after that, not me. And she gave him a big hug after he got out and all, and brought him a laptop computer and a pony. She said I wasn't allowed up on him 'cause I was a fuckface, and I never was up on him, except one time much later, well 2 times around, but she never knew it, or she'd have killed me, or killed me even. She said she'd named the pony after me though, and then she called him Fuckface. That was Killian's pony's name. That was all much later, weeks or months or maybe a year later, after he got out. But that night in the room, when the fellas were fighting each other from their own rooms, I wasn't really listening to them mostly. But I think I was kind of sad, and it was mostly about Con. I was thinking about my uncle, and he'd be locked up in a place like this. I thought anyway. I didn't know till much later what kind of place he'd be locked up in. And I was thinking Con would hate this, and he'd go mad, the size of him in the small room. And that made me sad, 'cause Con was sung out when you got to know him. Then I was getting mad, 'cause he done nothing wrong, and I done nothing too. Next day I was left go home, Bill said, and he's smiling when I ate my breakfast. I said, tell him I finished my toast and finished all my tea too, and he wrote that down and we were both laughing. I was taken to the Bridewell first, and Stacey was there and she took me home. There was no news about Killian, and I asked Stacey where was my mother, and she goes she's locked up for questioning. And Stacey stayed in our house that night, and her boyfriend Charlie too. They had a party and had cocaine, and I was making them laugh, saying Charlie was doing Charlie and stuff like that. And I asked them for some, but they wouldn't, 'cause it cost too much. And after a while they laughed so much they said I could have a go too. And I was buzzing after that, and I ran out the door after a while, and I was all around the city smashing things all night. I remember for a while I was running around looking for Killian, and when I'd spot someone who I thought might be him, I'd attack him when they weren't Killian at all, and I'd run on looking for him more. I was out of it. I forgot what age I was then, 10 or 12 I'd say at the most, or 13 maybe max. I was mad then, Kinda small, but I was strong out, stronger than I'd be even now, I'd say. I'd have fought anyone at that time. I'd have probably bait him too. When I got home it was nearly bright, and the two of them, Stacey and Charlie, were bollocks naked in the front room fast asleep. He was on the settee and he had a horn on him the size of a donkey, I'll never forget. And it took me a while to spot Stacey, 'cause I was looking for her in case he was the only one there. You wouldn't know what a knobber like that might do. She was there too though, down the back of the settee curled up in a ball, like she was hiding and fell asleep. So I went to bed. I remember thinking my own bed wasn't as good as the bed in the prison cell I stayed the last 2 nights. I was still thinking I was in a prison then. That was the first time I think I knew I had no proper bed at home, or felt like it. We had ones like that for a short while, a few times but they always got ripped to bits when we was younger. We were pure animals We weren't living in Winchester yet then, and we were still too young, so my bed was a mattress that you blow up. It'd last a week or a month or a few days before I'd have to find another one. But far as I cared at that time, that's what real beds in your home was. Or were, I mean. For children at least. Then my mother got back and she was odd with me for days and days, and wouldn't talk to me even, 'cause she said I tried to get her sent down and I was a grass. But I was telling her I wasn't, and she still wouldn't talk to me, and she thrown me out for 2 nights, but left me come back when I brought some fancy jewellery to her for a present that I found in Murder She Wrote's house. I slept there the second night. I didn't sleep anywhere the first night because I was mad and mostly ran around town. Then when I was hanging tired next day, I was back by our house and Murder She Wrote spotted me and she goes, "Come in for a glass of milk." And she was sound out and gave me food and all because I was starving. Then when she heard my mother throw me out, she was going to call the cops or someone, but she was scared and I said don't bother, I'd be allowed back in again next day anyway. And I was too after I found the jewellery I never took nothing off her place before that, but I knew my mother would like it and I knew where it was. She still wouldn't talk to me like my mum, but she said I could sleep in my own in Killian's room, but it was all my fault. Killian got done for what I done. And she was right too, I know. I was a stupid shit, and she made me say it over and over till I knew it. Then I said sorry again, but my mother could be fierce mad at you for ages sometimes. They kept Killian for ages too. I forgot to ask him where he was when he got back, and I couldn't ask my mother because she'd have never told me. But when I got her more presents, she started to talk with me again. And after a while I was her favourite again, because there was no one else there And Tara came back for a while, and Melanie, and they were her favourites. And they left again, and she was friends with me again. So I didn't miss them so much, because I was cheering up my mum, and made her laugh, and she was bringing me with her to the pub and all. We were like buddies, the two of us. One time she got a call off the sheds to tell her I had a motorbike, and they wanted it back. They said they just wanted a bike, and they wouldn't do no more to me, because I was a juvenile. Just meet them at the traffic lights at the end of our road, they said, at 10:30 next morning, and hand over the bike, and nothing more would be said or done about it. She was an XR600, lovely bike, Honda. You could go anywhere in her My mother tells me all this about the cop when it was dark, and I had her all night to ride around and have a think about what I wanted to do They said if I damaged her or burnt her out or whatever, the deal was off and I'd definitely be going down this time. A load of kids and mums and dads in the area heard about it, and when we were all around the bonnet that night, they were all asking me what I was going to do, and I told them all I hadn't a clue what I'd do, and we had a great laugh. What a bike. I was up and down steps and everything on her, and Timmy McGrath, who was around double my age, goes, he couldn't even do that in a bike like that, and I went up and down again to give him a thrill Next morning, I said I might as well bring the bike back and get off the heat. So I got the bike from where I kept her. Alright, she was in my bedroom, but they'd have needed a search warrant to find her there, so it was the safest place when you think about it And I drove down to the traffic lights. The Sierra was parked down there on one side of the road, and there was a white van on the other side opposite, belonging to the bike shop for them to take her away. I drove up and stopped in front of the Sierra, and Garda Mick, who had the same name as me started walking towards me slowly. He was after been speaking with the owner of the bike, or some fella who was probably the owner anyway, and he kind of waved at him to go away when I got there, and then the guard walked slowly up to me. All the neighbours was lined up at the top of the grass hill above us to see me hand it over. They all said the night before give it back, because I could always get it again another time, but if I kept it or burnt it, I'd be in worse trouble than Killian even. My mother even was up at the top of the grass when I looked, and she shouted, "Go on, give him the bike, Mickey." And the guard was nearly up to me with his arm out, and I shouts out, "I will him, Mickey," and revved the engine and drove up the front of the Sierra and down the other side, with Garda Mick's rookie partner sitting inside, looking at me and all with his jaw open. I stalled a minute to give him a chance to turn the squad car round, then shot off for a thrill with the two cops in the car chasing me. They were all screaming and roaring up on the hill, including my mother. After I went around the blocky, I tore up the same street again, and they were still waving and laughing and cheering me on. What a laugh. My mother was in stitches, and I knew she forgot she was odd with me then, and I was her favourite. I tore up and down that road for ages, and I could see after a while Garda Mick looked like he was fed up, and he was going to leave, so I drove away out the country and all. I ran out of petrol then out by the lock, and I phoned my mother and told her tell the cops the bike is out by the lock. And when they turned up, I said I was minding it for them to make sure it's not damaged, and could they give me a lift back home because I had no spin, and they did, an odd bunch of langers that they are. When I got home, I got a big chair again for my mum and all her buddies who was in the house having a party by that time. I was at the parties mostly and all after that, doing jobs for her and everything. Until then, Killian gets back eventually and she remembered what I done. She had his laptop computer waiting for him and brought him his pony next day, and she wouldn't talk to me again for ages except to call me names and say Killian was her favourite. It wasn't his fault at all Killian knew how she'd be, and he was always the best brother to me growing up, unless we was fighting like. But Killian was different then too, I think, looking back. We'd good fun again, and we'd done all stuff together, same as always, for about a year I'd say, but more or less overall I'd say he was sad like. He didn't say it, but I know that, like, at the time, I tried to get him to change his mind with all messing and things. He never turned on his computer even, and sold it after to a fella he knew, because cash converters wouldn't give him nothing for it, because he had no receipt or nothing, even when he told him it was a present, and it was like. And I loved fuckface the pony more than Killian, and I fed him most days too, but Killian only pretended he loved him when our mother was around, and he'd be up on him, riding up and down outside, and she'd be laughing and waving at Killian. And she'd laugh at me then, because I couldn't have a go, because I was a grass. One time then, after ages, overright my mother, Killian goes to me, "You could have a go on him." And I was hopping on, but my mother started screaming and told us no way, and Killian even wouldn't go on him no more after that, and said he wouldn't be bothered. That was the night I snuck a go on fuckface the first time when no one knew, and when I got home Killian was there, and I was telling him again about me on the bike. He was after hearing all about it like already. But I told him again, and he was listening and laughing, and then I told him I was going to take fuckface on a jaunt next day, and ride him up and down outside overright our mother and everyone, and she'd have to let me ride him after that. And Killian got mad and goes, "No way," and he told me he'd bait me if I tried it, because our mother would kill me if I did it. And I said okay, but then I said I was going to do it, and we had a small bit of a scatter in our room, but mostly it was me saying I was going to ride fuckface for a laugh, and Killian bait me till I said I wouldn't. And then he got off me, and I'd carry on saying it again, and he'd be baiting me again, until I'd stop, then he'd stop. He gave me a black eye and all that time too, what a laugh.